They'll say you're ungrateful. They'll swear the problem is you. They'll insist that your rebellion is just a phase, an inflated ego, a lack of gratitude. But what if none of that is true? What if the distance you feel isn't a flaw in your character, but a sign of awakening, a call from your soul that you finally had the courage to answer? The truth is uncomfortable. Not every family is a safe haven, and not every blood tie deserves to be kept at any cost. While the world romanticizes the idea of a united clan and unconditional forgiveness, there's a silent group of people living a quiet struggle. They love their families deeply, yet can no longer carry the weight of pretending to be someone they're not. This conflict doesn't come from selfishness, it comes from a deep activation of consciousness where faking becomes physically unbearable and emotionally impossible. If you've ever felt guilty for not fitting in, for questioning traditions everyone follows blindly, or for choosing a path that disappointed the people who raised you, take a deep breath, because you're about to discover something that will completely change the way you see your story. The family break they judged you for might actually be the greatest act of spiritual courage you've ever made. And in this video from the Soul Awakening channel, you'll understand exactly why your soul pulled you away from that place, not to destroy you, but to rebuild you from the inside out. There are people who carry an invisible weight from an early age, the feeling of never fully fitting into the family mold. They look around and realize they think differently, feel differently, and question what others simply accept. This sense of misalignment is not a character flaw or empty rebellion. It is, in fact, a sign of awakening to something much greater, a clear mark of those chosen to walk a unique path. The expression black sheep is often thrown like a stone, but few understand the deeper truth it reveals about identity. While the herd moves together, the black sheep sees the horizon through different eyes and feels the pull of the unknown. It did not reject the family on a whim, its soul simply does not fit into predefined boxes. And that, my friend, is the beginning of profound inner changes that few people have the courage to face. Instead of condemning this difference, it needs to be recognized for what it truly is, a blessing disguised as a challenge. How many times have you felt misunderstood at the dinner table, carrying ideas that no one around you can validate? That loneliness, as painful as it can be, is the fuel that drives inner transformation and prepares the ground for a journey that only a few dare to take. Being different has never meant being wrong, even though society insists on making it seem that way. The person who does not conform to family patterns is not suffering from a psychological flaw. On the contrary, they are showing signs of a spiritual awakening that most people have yet to reach. While others accept ready-made answers, this person questions, investigates, and searches for personal meaning, and that takes a kind of courage that comes from within, not from the outside. This nonconformity is a rare gift, even when it comes wrapped in conflict. Think of the son who refuses to follow the family's traditional career, or the daughter who chooses a spiritual path different from the Christianity practiced for generations. These choices are not born from childish rebellion, they arise from a shift in consciousness already operating at a higher frequency, connecting the person to their true soul purpose, even when they still cannot put it into words. The critical self-awareness of these individuals works like an inner radar that detects falseness and superficiality. They simply can't go with the flow, because something inside them asks for authenticity, asks for truth, asks for real alignment. And it's precisely this relentless search for inner coherence that puts them on a collision course with family structures that value appearances more than essence. The loneliness that follows those who don't fit in is visceral, the kind that cuts deep and leaves a mark. Growing up feeling like you are the problem, that your presence makes others uncomfortable, that your ideas are seen as threats, this creates invisible wounds that many carry in silence. It's like living in a language only you speak, crying out for understanding in the middle of a deafening silence, where every family gathering becomes a painful reminder that you don't belong in that circle. But here is the secret few ever reveal: this pain is not a punishment, it's an initiation. Every moment of rejection, every disapproving look, every cutting remark acts as a tool that shapes your true essence. Spiritual growth rarely happens in comfort, it is born in friction, pressure, and discomfort, Conditions that force you to go deep and discover who you really are once all the masks your family insisted you wear are finally removed. This emotional separation, as brutal as it may feel at the time, later reveals itself as the greatest gift life could offer. Through the emotional and spiritual healing that comes from facing these wounds, you discover your real strength, the kind no one can take away, because it was forged in the fire of adversity. What once looked like a curse becomes fuel for a rebirth of the soul that few people ever get the chance to experience. Those who walk on the margins develop a kind of vision that people at the center will never have. The black sheep, by constantly observing from the outside, builds a sharp emotional intelligence, an ability to read between the lines and notice dynamics that others miss. This skill isn't a coincidence, it's the direct result of years spent decoding hostile environments, anticipating rejection, and navigating complex emotional landscapes where a single misstep could mean even more isolation. This deep self-reflection turns these people into true masters of autonomy. While many need constant validation from the group to make decisions, those who have tasted solitude learn to trust their own inner compass. This is one of the clearest signs of spiritual awakening, the ability to stand emotionally on your own, without external crutches, to listen to your intuition even when everyone around you is shouting the opposite, and to choose the road less traveled because it resonates with something deeper inside you. And there's more. Their creativity operates on a different level precisely because they aren't afraid to explore the unknown. When you're already seen as different anyway, you lose the fear of being different, and that's when the magic happens. Innovative solutions, unique perspectives, and alternative ways of living and thinking naturally emerge from those who never had the luxury of simply accepting the status quo. This is deep spirituality in action, creating from authenticity, not from conformity. The turning point comes when you stop seeing yourself through other people's eyes and start seeing yourself through the lens of your own truth. Spending years believing you're the problem, the flawed one, the one who doesn't measure up, that builds a mental prison that keeps you small, chained to a story that was never yours. But when consciousness finally activates, when you realize that your difference is not a flaw but a purpose, everything shifts in the blink of an eye. This process of reframing is revolutionary because it completely flips the equation of your life. You stop carrying shame and begin to recognize your value. You stop seeking acceptance where it was never going to exist and start building real connections with those who truly see you. It's like realizing you were never playing the wrong game, you were simply on a field that was never meant for you, and that says nothing about your worth, only about the mismatch between who you are and where you were trying to belong. Many people who go through this inner transformation describe the same freeing experience, finding their tribe outside their family of origin. Whether in spiritual communities, shared interest groups, deep friendships, or spaces like the Soul Awakening channel, they finally get to feel what it's like to be truly seen, accepted, and celebrated for who they really are. What once felt like loneliness within the family turns into relational abundance when you realize that real belonging doesn't come from blood, but from soul resonance. Understanding all of this on an intellectual level is one step, but bringing that wisdom into your daily life is where real change happens. The first essential move is to validate your own feelings without asking anyone for permission. You have every right to feel hurt, misunderstood, or even betrayed by the lack of family support. Denying those emotions or pushing them aside only delays the emotional and spiritual healing your soul needs in order to move forward with more lightness. The second step is to break apart the labels that were stuck on you over the years. Rebel, difficult, strange, the black sheep of the family, these words carry poison, and they were often used to keep you in a certain place. Here's an uncomfortable truth: the people who labeled you that way were likely threatened by your courage to be authentic. So stop taking other people's judgments as absolute truths, because they're not. They're simply projections from those who are afraid of the freedom you represent. And finally, though it's no less important, build a life that reflects your real values, not the ones you inherited. That means choosing your career, relationships, where you live, even your hobbies based on what truly makes your heart feel alive, not on what will please your family at the next Sunday lunch. Seeking support outside the family circle is not betrayal. It's emotional survival and, in many cases, the only way to honor the sole purpose you came here to fulfill in this lifetime. There's a well-documented psychological dynamic known as the family scapegoat, where all the dysfunction of the system gets projected onto a single person. That person becomes the convenient container for everything that's wrong, allowing everyone else to keep their illusions of perfection intact. It's no coincidence that this role usually falls on the most sensitive, the most perceptive one, the person who can feel the unspoken lies moving through the house like ghosts. Deep inner change often begins with those who have the courage to see what's broken first. Family systems theory explains that there is a constant tension between belonging to the group and being truly yourself. Very rigid families demand that you sacrifice essential parts of your identity in the name of keeping the family together, and anyone who refuses to make that sacrifice is automatically labeled as disruptive or problematic. But what they call a problem is, in fact, the soul's rebirth in motion, an unconscious yet powerful refusal to betray yourself in exchange for an acceptance that would always come with conditions. When you understand these dynamics from a broader perspective, you realize it was never about you being wrong. It was about a family system that couldn't hold your truth, that felt threatened by your authenticity, that needed to keep you small so the collective illusion could stay intact. Recognizing this isn't about blaming anyone, it's about seeing reality clearly, releasing guilt that was never yours, and finally allowing spiritual growth to take you where you were always meant to be. So let me ask you something, how long are you going to carry guilt that was never yours? How long will you accept being called selfish for choosing your mental health, your soul's purpose, your truth? The understanding you've just absorbed isn't meant to sit neatly on a shelf in your mind, it exists to be applied, lived, embodied in your everyday life, starting now, in this very moment. Take an honest look at your life. Are you still trying to fit into spaces that were never meant for you? Are you still asking for permission to be who you really are? Do you still believe your inner transformation needs approval from people who don't even understand the path you're walking? Because if the answer is yes, then consider this the push you were missing. Stop waiting for your family to understand your deep spirituality. They won't, and that's okay, because this journey is yours, not theirs. Here's the challenge: choose one thing, just one, that you've been avoiding out of fear of family judgment, and take the first step this week. It can be small, it can seem insignificant, but do it, because it's through these seemingly minor actions that the soul's rebirth gains strength. And tell me in the comments, do you see yourself in this black sheep journey? When was the moment you realized you no longer fit that mold? Let's create a support network down below, because your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if this content touched you deeply, if you recognized your own story here, then subscribe to the Soul Awakening channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos, because we are just beginning to uncover the secrets of spiritual emotional healing and the deep inner changes that await you. Your soul thanks you for making it this far. Until the next awakening.